Welcome to the second special guest interview. In this episode, we discuss ambition, life as a social worker, family burdens, community, and mental health. Also, stick around to the end for some bloopers. Enjoy the show.
Hello, everyone. My name is Isma Ahmed, if you will. That's my full government name. Please don't look me up. I am 25 years old. I grew up on the southwest side of Chicago, Midway area. I went to school on the south side of Chicago with my good friend, Cassandra. You know her from the last episode. And then went to school on the southwest side. Went to high school with you and Cassandra. Now I am a school social worker. Went to University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, UIUC. I love that place. I really do. For undergrad, I got a bachelor's in science and human development and family studies, and then went to get my master's at Loyola for social work. And that's how I ended up as a school social worker. It's true. None of this is a lie. Anyway, I get to do the office thing where I look into the camera.
Oh,
anyway.
right. Acknowledge the camera sometimes.
Yeah, it's my favorite thing.
But thank you for being on podcast. The title of it is going to be my high school debate partner.
Oh my God, that is so funny. It's true. We were debate partners. It's true. We were in a haunted building, and then Alvin said that he was going to go to the bathroom, and I said, "You cannot leave me." Remember that?
No. What I remember is you missing a lot.
What the fuck?
I remember.
Don't call me out on a podcast. What's wrong with you?
I remember.
I'm 25 years old. That was a long time ago.
I couldn't advance to some of the tournaments because you weren't there. And
Your man. I don't remember that. I was a pretty active member. Mr. Sager probably would say otherwise. I think it's because I ended up joining volleyball at that point in my life. And so I guess, yeah, I was missing debate a bit more. So fine. What? Am I being too loud?
a little bit.
God damn it, Alvin. Anyway. Yeah, that was a funny story, though. You cut it. Anyway, it's fine. You can fix it. But yeah, it was a haunted building, remember? We went there, and Lisette was there, and then her fucking cross necklace broke, and I was like,
I remember that. I feel
hell
like that
no.
definitely does
But I
ring
will
the
say
bell.
my Allah necklace was intact. Anyway, but yeah, we went into that room, and then you're like, "I have to pee," and I was like, "No, you don't." And then I was like, "You can't leave me in here. What if I get possessed?" And then the other team showed up, and then I was like, "All right, go, get out of here." It's true. That did happen. Yeah, it's true. We were debate partners.
Yeah, it's a long time ago. That was 8,
No need to put numbers out there.
9
All
years
right.
ago.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyways,
Anyway, moving on.
filled out the survey.
I sure did.
And I think one of my first questions for this half of the episodes are going to be focused a lot on ambition. Okay. And how do you think your ambition and motivation has changed from like childhood to now? Because I feel like talking to you more recently is definitely seems like not a whole different person, but a more developed person than when I met you in high school.
Well, it's true. Your frontal lobe does develop at 25, so that does check out.
It just hit?
It just hit. 25 is a year, my friends. I don't know. Let's define ambition. What is ambition, Alvin?
It's your goals. How big do you define your goals, and how motivated you are to actually achieve those goals?
Well, let's think of my life. I think early on, if you look at my kindergarten posters or like those preschool posters, when they're like, "What are you going to be when you grow up?"
Yeah.
Doctor. I am a person from a Brown family. It's true. So my parents, I think, had this dream of me becoming a doctor. I did not become a doctor, but I did get educated. And I think the greatest thing you can be, or someone in their eyes that was educated and had a good, successful, and comfortable life, to them was a doctor. And so they were like, "Yeah, that's what you got to be." And in my head, I was like, "Yeah, that's what I'm going to be." But I think sometime in high school, I realized that's not what I wanted to be. And honestly, that was a really scary feeling, because I was like, damn, am I going to disappoint my parents? That was like a thing,
Yeah.
And I have a friend who is still a very good friend of mine, Melissa. Been friends with her since first grade. And that was a dream that we both shared together. So it was kind of like, damn, I'm not going to be a doctor. And I'm not going to be a doctor with my bestie? That's weird. And then I remember having a phone call like at 15, 16, being like, "Hey, dude, I don't think this doctor thing's going to work." And she was like, "You know what? I don't want to be a doctor." And I was like, "Oh, thank God." And I think like having that conversation kind of made it like, okay, like what do I want to be and what do I want to do? And I honestly did not know. But But I did know that I wanted to go to college and I wanted to do something that was impactful to people and help them in some sort of way. I don't know. And I was like, yeah, I'll get there somehow. I think the idea of working hard in school or seeing the value in school kind of changed for me when I was in middle school. I was a pretty average kid. I'm not gonna lie. I got C's. Like, I passed. Point is, right? And I realized around 8th grade that there were rankings in high schools. There was good high schools, bad high schools, if you will. If you will. And if you grew up in Chicago, you know that selective enrollment schools are top tier. Very good, right? That's where you want to be. So I applied. I'm a terrible test taker. Terrible test taker. I also have ADHD now, so it makes a lot of sense.
It
Not
just
now,
popped
always
up.
had it, right. Always had it, now diagnosed. I took the test, did not pass, did not get into the schools that I wanted to go to. And that, I think, was a shift. I think there was like a question about like positive and negative changes. I think that was a shift in my life where I realized, damn, this shit's not a game. Like, I have to work hard on where I want to be. And I think for me, that was getting an education. So then I realized, damn, this shit ain't gonna cut it. So I think then when I did get into high school, I was like, okay, I have to work hard. And for me, school has never been like an easy thing for me. Like, it's something that I feel like always struggled at some capacity. Have I had favorite subjects, stuff like that? Yeah, but like it's still something that I was not something that I could like not study and I got an A, I wish I could beat those fuckers, but I wasn't. So I think that was a point where I was like, okay, like I gotta lock in. And I think I tried pretty hard in high school so that I could get into the college that I wanted to, and I did. So that was like a pretty big and proud moment for me, I think. And then I guess where I kind of like realized that I wanted to work in a school or like, I guess even school social work. To be fair, I didn't even know what school social work was until I was in college when I was applying to grad school, which is crazy to think about, but it's true. It was when I was working with a college counselor at college. Like there was an academic one and then there was like the one that you check in with, right?
Oh, that's interesting.
What was her name? Started with an M. It's Margaret.
Margaret.
Do you remember? Do you know what I'm talking about?
In-
She got fired when we were seniors, her and Mr. Gonzalez, and then they hired that one person.
We were seeing. I was.
Oh, I
older.
was a senior.
Yeah.
You were gone. I forget.
I
You're
don't.
old.
I don't remember the college counselors doing anything. Like in high
He was
school,
nice.
I
Mr.
just
Gonzalez?
remember from Chicago Scholars the real support
They were-
because.
he ended up going to Chicago Scholars and helping people. Remember?
Yeah, I know who then.
You know
I
what I'm
know.
talking about? Yeah.
I
So
know.
him, and then it was Miss Margaret? Oh, I'm so sorry. Anyway, she was really nice, point is. And I really liked working with her, and it gave me a space to like talk about my family stuff. And at that time, I was not very open. Like, even though I had friends and things like that, like I wasn't telling them about my problems. I was like, y'all don't need to know my shit. And honestly, I didn't know how to talk about it, because I'm just trying to go to school, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think seeing her job in that capacity, I was like, this is cool shit. I could do this for the rest of my life. I think I like this, And I think people in my life have been like, oh, yeah, you give good advice and this and that. And I don't know. I'm just talking out my ass half of the time. But I like talking, and I also like listening. And I was like, yeah, that sounds about a career, about my personality. You know what I mean? So I think that made me like, okay, this is where I want to be. And so as I continued schooling in college, I realized that I would need a master's. So that's when I started looking into master's programs and then figuring out what the difference between a school counselor versus a school social worker was, and then asking those questions in interviews or even like people and asking like, what the difference really was, and then seeing where I aligned. And for me, that was social work. So I'm kind of glad where I ended up because it's my first year, so I'm still learning. Okay. But I do love what I do. And I think I always say this, I feel like I found a job that just fits my personality. Like, it's like, oh, you're a social worker. I was like, nah, it's just me. Now I have a title to it. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I guess that's my little span of my ambition. What the fuck? English is not my first language. Ambition throughout my life.
I think going back to like when we were younger in high school, what do you think kept you from sharing your like dreams and goals with, let's say, like friends that aren't like your best friends, but other people?
Sharing my dreams and goals.
Yeah.
And like what aspect though?
Like if you were to tell
Like go to college? I think
like
people
a
knew
friend,
that.
like what you really want in life. Like I want to help kids. Because I know most people don't really share that with friends. Other people share like that. Like I want to go to college. I want to study this degree. But what kept you from sharing? I want to help kids that have been in this types of situations. I want to help them go through any troubles they're having at home because I feel like I can relate to their experiences.
Well, I think at that age, like I don't think I would have worded it like that, you know? I think I don't know. I think at that age saying like, "Oh, I want to go to college to be like Miss Margaret." I hope that's her name. Miss Margaret, right? I think people are like, "Yeah, that's cool." Like, you know, but like I don't even think at that age I probably knew how to like verbalize it because it is, I feel like, a pretty vulnerable thing, like, you know. And then like I think as I've gotten older and like talked to friends from high school or even like beyond, like we all gone through some crazy ass shit, you know what I'm saying? And at that time I think when you're going through it, you're just like, that's just life, you know? And at that, also at the same time, being a teenager, you're going through so much stuff. And it's like, I think the last thing you want is to be embarrassed or have that type of attention. So I think maybe that's why, because I was like, oh, people won't understand what I'm going through. But as you get older, it's like, I think more people often than not would understand what you're going through than not. You know what I
So in
mean?
college, if you felt more open to share.
Absolutely, I think so. Because I think at that point, it was like, it was just us. Like, you know, like no parents, no families. Like I was living on campus and it was like, whether you like it or not, we're crying at 2 a.m. Like, you know what I mean? Like something happened and like you can't run away from it, whether it's me or my friends, like, you know, and it doesn't have to necessarily be like, so I was traumatized at 5 years old. It could just be like, damn, bro, did you hear what that guy said? Like, you know, and it's like from that going on and like being vulnerable in that moment can like really, I don't know, create that bond with people, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know.
And then going over like your motivations for being like a social worker, developing that over time, did money play a part in shifting your decision, knowing that a lot of these like social jobs where you're helping directly with people don't pay a lot, and you're like,
Yeah.
really, this is what I want, and I'm gonna sacrifice a certain amount of my paycheck
Like
to
a
go
higher
into this
income.
field.
I mean, I thought about that, like being a doctor versus a social worker. It's a pretty big pay cut, right? Yeah. I mean, even when I started college, I took like some like chem or like science classes because I was like, okay, maybe I was just lying. Maybe I will become a doctor. And then I took those classes. I was like, yeah, no, it's not happening. Like, you know? And I think like, don't like get me wrong. I think being a doctor is a great job. You know, there's a lot of things that come to it. But I think for me, I needed a job that was more personal and like it like made an impact. Like I don't think I could do something that didn't mean anything. Like, you know what I mean? I think that holds a lot more value to me than a paycheck. I will take a paycheck though. But that's not the point. And I also think that it also comes like, okay, a little off track. I don't know if it's off track, but anyway, let me tell you the story. I think it goes along with your question. When I was in grad school, a lot of people had the same sentiment, like, you know, we're doing this, but we're not going to get paid. We'll be poor for the rest of our lives. And then my professor would sit there and she was like, who the fuck is telling you this shit? You don't have to be poor. And I was like, what do you mean? You know? And then I think like exploring other avenues in social work. Like, for example, like I've met people who do school social work, but they're also a therapist on the side and they have their own client. Having different forms or different modes of income within like the field that you want to study in was like, oh, that's cool. Like you can still do what you want to do and still have a higher income. That and on top of like advocating for yourself. Know your worth. Like you're going into these jobs like yes to help people, but you can't help people if you're fucking drowning yourself. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So yeah, like sometimes they're not gonna pay you as much, but like try to advocate for it. Like the worst thing that they could say is no. Like if they give you a salary you don't want, like, oh, can I get like 10K more? Maybe they'll give you 5K more. Now you have 5K more than you originally had. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's hard to do, but again, the worst thing that they could say is no. If they already want you, like,
Yeah.
let's be honest, they need you anyway.
Did you
Like,
take any business classes in college or like see anything for negotiation? Because that sounds pretty brave on paper, but most
no,
people do not
I didn't.
go for it.
I didn't. I'm trying to think. No, I didn't. I didn't take any business classes. I just think also, I don't know. I just feel like you should get paid what you're worth. Like, I feel like that's a pretty like humanitarian thing to do. I mean, my best friend's a teacher. Like, I'm like, you should get paid what you're worth. Like, I did tutoring as a side thing in college and in grad school. And I know it's not the same thing as being a teacher. And I did that for a little bit. And I was like, you guys need to get paid more. You know what I mean? And I was like, I don't know. I feel like if you have empathy and you can understand people, even if you're not in their position, like you would be like, yeah, you deserve that, I don't
Yeah,
know.
and that's hard to gauge, especially because I think growing up in like a community where there wasn't that many high-paying jobs, we might not know the true value of a job.
Absolutely.
Because what type of works or jobs did people have around you when you were growing up?
So I saw that question on your thing. And the thing is, I was sitting there and I was doing this. I was like with my brother, okay? And I was like, dude, I don't know what the fuck. And then I was reading, I was like, that's it. And then we were just answering. I was like, what jobs did I see? And I was like, damn, that's fucking crazy. So the jobs that I saw were factory workers, people working at gas stations, people working as Uber and taxi drivers, security guards, not like anything crazy, like
Okay.
everyday, you know, people jobs, if you will. But a lot of it was like factory work. Like my grandpa, he worked at a factory for like 30 something years. He retired from there. My aunts, when they like immigrated here in their early 20s, 19, like they were like 19, early 20s. They worked in a factory. Like that's that's what I saw most of the time. And like my mom, like, and like seeing that and like seeing like the physical toll it takes on them, I was like, nah, bro, it has to be better than that. And I think seeing that and realizing like they came here for me. Damn, bro, that's a fucking burden. Like that is a pressure, not a burden, like you know what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
mean, I'm pretty sure like you understand. Like you see these people work so fucking hard, and you're like, no, like I don't want to see you work that hard and like take that toll on your body. My grandpa passed away about 2 years ago now, so it's a little sad. But like one of my goals was like for me to get a good job and to make enough money so that he can do fun things. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, he passed before I could kind of give him that. But one of the things that he was most proud of me was my education. Like he's like, I don't care if I have to work this hard. Like as long as I see someone in my family do what kind of like what he came here to do. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I don't know what your question was, but yeah, that's what I saw people working, and that kind of like also like kind of pushed me and motivated me, like seeing people work so hard at like everyday jobs and like how much they do to provide for your family, and yeah,
Yeah, because we saw these type of struggles in our community where a lot of our parents in those areas have factory jobs or hard labor jobs that they want us to get an education because they think the key to getting out of these
yeah,
areas or a
situations,
better life is an education.
yeah,
But sometimes it's not. I think what a lot of them mean is a better life in terms of a life that they want, because some of our parents do jobs that they don't even like. They do it because that's the only option. And that's all they can really do. They have to like just take the job and deal with it to give their kids a better life. And I
Yeah.
think, how you said, it does carry a heavy burden.
Yeah.
And that burden isn't felt evenly across all of our like classmates, our people in our neighborhood. And I think what made you feel like you should carry that burden and not, oh, I should live a lax life and they
Yeah.
can figure it out.
So I guess we're gonna get into a little bit of family drama. No, I'm just kidding. But my grandpa. So when I say grandpa, I mean like my father's dad. He and my dad immigrated here, and my dad was about, he was in his teens, like early teens or mid teens, whatever. He was a teenager, like 15, 16. He did like, point is, he went to like high school in the States, okay? And I think one of the things that I grew up with was that, damn, like, you know, your dad came here early, but he didn't go to college. Like, you know, like it was like almost like a regret that he had or my family had. Like, he didn't like make something of himself. But like, I feel like that's really hard when you come here as a teenager and you come here as like a family. You know, you're starting over in a new country. You don't know the language. You don't know the culture. You don't know anybody, you know? My grandpa, when he came here, I think the only other family member he had was like his older brother. So, but still, like, you don't know shit, right? But I think that was definitely like a point for me. Like, you know, your dad couldn't do it or like whatever. So now passing the baton off to like you know what I'm saying? I was like, all right, got it, boss. Like, got it. But also like, I don't like, in that aspect, I don't like shit on my dad because like that's hard. That's like a struggle that I will never have to go through and understand. So did my dad work a minimum wage job my entire life? Yeah, it is what it is. But like, I learned through that struggle. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I think that was definitely like a thing. And then my mom, I think she valued education a lot too. She was like, yeah, I want to be a preschool teacher, or like, I want to do this. And I think sometimes it gets lost, like, oh, but I'm a mom. I was like, go be a preschool teacher. Like, you know, they will chew your head off. Like, go do it though. But, you know, it's like seeing their dreams and like, I guess what they believed me to be, I guess having that expectation almost, like, made me rise to it, if that makes sense. The pressure was crazy.
Yeah.
But that's a nice way to say it, you know, the positive.
Yeah, I could definitely relate, especially because my mom came when she was also around like 15, 16. And I guess especially because it was a different time here, resources were
Yeah.
different. And now that they see that it's basically open for everyone to achieve all their dreams, I think a lot of our communities are missing something because a lot of the people we grew up with, either in elementary, high school, it's different when you're in college because people come from different backgrounds, but our areas have something that sticks with people that either really pushes them to do their best or something hinders them. And what do you think, like us, as in people who, you know, not necessarily achieve their dreams, but are in progress and have made good enough progress to go back to the communities, to give back either in words of advice or in volunteer time, to go to these high schools, to really show presentation of the work we've done or life experiences, because a lot of people forget that, well, they forget that life plays such a big role in how you progress in life and how fast, because some people might take years while other people could do it in months. And what do you think we can do to motivate our communities?
That's a loaded question, my friend. I don't know. Like, as you're talking about this, and I was thinking, like, for example, my dad, right? There's a lot of people, you know, like you said, like, come here early, and you're like, well, they didn't do it, like, you know. But then I think a lot of it is based off of survival. Like my dad, and I feel like a lot of other people, even within our communities, you know, when you grow up in areas who have poverty or like, you know, they're struggling, there's like a lot of violence or like there's a lot of gang activity, and you just got to do what you got to do to survive. And I feel like sometimes, like hearing my dad's stories, like those are things that he kind of had to do to survive. My dad was not in the gang, but like there's a lot of things that you know, you have to navigate in order to like get to school, get home, get a job, do this and that, right? And I think maybe when you're stuck in that survival mindset, or like when that's all you've ever known, it's kind of hard to quote unquote progress or like get out of that system. I feel like there's not like a clean answer to that question, because everyone is so different and everyone's situation is so different. But I was thinking about what you said the other day about like our choices are, or like 80% of our life is based off of our choices, something like that, right?
Yeah.
I was really pondering on that question. I'm not gonna lie. I even like asked a couple people. I was like, "What y'all think?" I was like, you know, and I feel like what gets me on that, like, I guess just that statement in itself, I think is the 80%. I feel like the number just boggles me. I'm like, there's something about that. But like in a general sense, like, yeah, like a lot of where I've come or you've come is based off of choices that we have made, right? But I think it's about telling people that, like, you have a choice. And it's like, I think, because like I was like, no, like some people don't got choices. Like they live in these situations, they have these circumstances. But I think maybe that's what keeps them stuck. You know, even that like survival mindset, like, no, this is what I have to do. Yeah, for now. Like, you know, like, yes, this is what you have to do now. But it don't have to be like that forever. And I think even like working with like students or like even friends or like even myself, like going, if you're having like bad times or like you're going through something mentally, like, you know, shit fucking sucks, you know? And like you think that shit's gonna last forever, especially when you work in with teenagers and high schools. I mean, it feels that way, but I think it's like telling them it's not, you know what I mean? So maybe like going into those communities and telling them, acknowledging the pain, the suffering, and all that they're going through, but saying that it doesn't have to be that way forever. I think that may be something. And I also think that, you know, we went and like got education and like, you know, whatever. But I also think it would be important to bring people back into the community who didn't take the same path that we did, like, you know, or people who quote unquote failed, like, you know, to show that people are real life human beings. Like, you know, live on social media and get a fucking bajillion dollars, like, you know what I mean? Or like getting a college degree is not easy, like, or even going to trade school, you know, whatever it is. I think showing the reality of what everyday life looks like for every other person is something that could be of a lot of value, you know? Because people, I feel like, shit on themselves a lot, bro. Especially after high school. They're like, damn, I thought I would be here. Who fucking cares, bro? But I get it. Like, I get it. Because everybody and yourself is telling you have to be this, this, and this. So I don't know if that answers your question, but...
Yeah, I do want to touch on a couple of points, especially of how people in our community live a certain way and they think that's the only way to live.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely important to show our communities that even though you're a certain way right now, that you might have to be that way to either stay safe or progress through at least finishing high school. You can still change, like have that plan in your head, like, okay, like I still got to do this to the end of high school. Like there's no way out of it.
Yeah, but the thing is, I don't think they know how. You know what I mean?
And I think that's definitely a really good point. They don't know how, but I think it's still moving in that direction. Even though you don't know where you're heading, you still want to head a good general direction.
Someone has to tell them. If no one's ever told them, then how they're going to know there's another path?
Yeah, and I think that comes from two things. Either the internal motivation or the external one.
Yeah.
And I believe external one is always seems harsher because it's typically a negative event,
like a constructive
that triggers
criticism.
it. Because if there's like something in the family like that negatively impacts them, it's hard to take that and use it as motivation to keep moving forward, because sometimes it's really traumatic and it's hard to let go of it. And
that's why mental health matters.
And it does. I at first years ago, even in high school, I did not think that, because I'm like, why do you need mental health? Because like you are like your person. How could you not care for yourself? How could you not want more?
Yeah.
But I think it was just me being like so closed off to the world that I think I'm a certain way. And I've taken trauma and all this childhood things.
It's like,
and
if I can do it, why can't you?
yeah, I molded it that way.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that I was missing for a lot of the pieces for other people is the actual molding process. Like other people might mold it into something else while
Yep.
I molded it into motivation.
Yep.
And what people need is how to mold the trauma and how to put everything together, because it's not a good thing to try to forget about it. It's understanding it and accepting it, because it's really, you don't want to build up all this trauma in the background and try to avoid it.
Yeah.
It's about accepting it with it and dealing
Right.
with it in a proper way.
Right.
And that's hard to deal with, especially because that's a professional like level type of help. You
Yeah.
can't just YouTube that stuff. And
No.
it might help,
Yeah.
but it's like just like getting medical advice on like YouTube.
Yes.
It could go wrong.
Right.
And I think
Can't Google what do these symptoms mean, and then you're gonna think you're dying.
you're
Yeah.
right. Everything's always like-
Everything is death. I know. Yeah, but yeah, I get what you're saying. That's a valid point.
And I think that's what a lot of schools in our areas lack.
That's why I went to social work. Hello. Because, I mean, no, really. Because when I was even, like, for example, when I was applying to high schools in 8th grade, right? I was like, why the fuck am I just hearing about selective enrollment? Y'all bitches didn't tell me I had to study. Like, you know what I mean? And I was like, we have a counselor? And to be fair, like, she probably was there. I don't know, but I didn't know of it. You know what I'm saying? And, like, I feel like I like talked about that to someone at subcapacity, like at my internship or something, right? Like now. And someone was like, well, yeah, if you didn't need it, you wouldn't really know that they exist. I feel like that's insane. Like, you know, I feel like at a level, like you come in freshman year, I feel like you should know this in general. But like, you know, at school, you might not see a counselor, you might not see a social worker, but these are services you are allowed to see. Like you have access to them. You know, you get what I'm
because
saying?
you don't know what you need until you
you
see
need it.
and you don't even know what they do. Like,
Exactly. So it's like if you don't know what resources you have, how are you going to access it?
and
Come
how to
on now.
properly use the resource, because they could tell you have a counselor. What does that
The
mean,
fuck
though?
does that mean? Exactly.
And-
Like I'm in college, okay? I'm about to graduate. I didn't know what the goddamn difference between a counselor and a social worker was in a school. I was like, please tell me more, right? And so if I'm at like 20 something about to graduate college, I'm like, can you tell me more? What is the fuck a 10-year-old or a 16-year-old gonna know if you don't tell them? Do you get what I'm saying? And like, I think it has to start off young. It has to start, period. But like, I think to get to where you are saying and get to what like you're going to be a millionaire, I feel like you have to address the mental aspect, because when you come from like the communities we come from, there is trauma, and you cannot get to progress or get to a life where you're happy and not surviving if you don't process it, right? And that's like a whole system
Yeah.
and systematic and racial issue, you know, and it's just a lot of layers. But the point is, yes, mental health matters. And I think it's really important. Like, come on.
Yeah, especially even at a young age, because I feel like people,
Yes, I feel like that's when it matters the fucking most.
like they're gonna be like, what does a 10-year-old need, like a counselor or a
come
therapist or
on.
something? But they gotta realize trauma at different ages is different. Like something could be ending for them.
And also, if you start processing your trauma at 10, when it's happening, you don't have to wait till you're 25. You get what I'm saying? You're like, oh, I don't really know what happened when I was 10 years old. So it's like you do it when it's in the moment, and you don't gotta carry it with you. So yeah, I agree. Like you don't know what's impacting you when it's happening sometimes. So the earlier it happens, the better. Like a little example. Like I work with kids, preschool to high school, right? It's so important to, like, when you're in a school, like, you can't just be like, oh, what happened in your class? You have to know what happened at home, what happened with your friends. Like, and I think this is, like, in general with any person, like, one aspect of their life is definitely not the only thing that's affecting them, right? It's very connected. So if a kid is, like, I don't know, not sharing, or, like, they're hitting someone at school, They didn't do that before. What's happening? Oh, their brother is doing that at home. Or like their sibling is doing that. So it transfers over. And so if you're not processing that at that age, what can that become? Who knows, right? And like that's impacting that kid in that moment, like you said. And like I think what happens also as adults is that, or like even people working in schools, I feel like sometimes in general, maybe this is a general statement, I don't know. People forget that like kids are also people. Like, you know what I mean? Like, who cares if they're 5, 15, or 18? Like, they're going through these feelings as a person. Like, I think oftentimes they get dismissed as, oh, you're just a kid. But bitch, you were a kid too, and nobody listened to you or gave you a hug. Look how you turned out. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, especially because I think adults feel like the kids aren't communicating the way adults
They want
do.
them to. Yeah.
So they don't express the
Yes.
same type of like
Yes.
complicated ideas
Yes.
and emotions.
Yes.
And that
yes.
leads them to feel a certain way, especially if like this person's like having a bad day, but the other person just brings it down worse because they're not feeling the a full connection of like you understand me. And that goes on over time, especially when teachers can't relate to their students. They don't understand that these struggles are making them struggle in school, and because of that, that over connects to their dreams of like, oh, I want to become this, like, let's say like how you mentioned a doctor. I'm like, if you already have a bad start in elementary school, that just stacks to high school, and then that stacks also to college because seeing those transitions, I went to a smaller elementary school. I'm like, I was not prepared for high school, even though we went to a charter school that was not like top quality.
Yeah.
It was whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, I struggled there. I'm like, what? Like, I knew I wasn't smart, but I wasn't like
Alvin, you're smart.
bad. And then I'm like, oh, whatever, right?
Yeah.
I didn't care what college to go to because no one really pushes if you're not that smart or no one sees what's wrong. And I'm like, I'll go to college, whatever. I'm like, I don't care which one I go to. Go to UIC. I'm like, wow, I'm doing so well. I'm like, wonder why I was struggling in like elementary and high school. It's because there's a piece of support that isn't there.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
yeah, how it stacks all the way across.
It does. And I think it's so important for like people who work in schools at every stage to be supportive of their students. And I think like when I even started at my internship, I would sit there and I'd be like, when I was like introducing myself, I was like, hey, blah, 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 you know, my spiel, whatever, I'm an intern. But I'd be like, yeah, like, you know, I know stuff, but I don't know everything, you know? And if I don't know, I will ask for you, like what, like a resource or something. But if I don't know, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend I don't, because let's be honest, there could be a kid sitting in front of me who has lived a life 10 times as me. Like, you know what I mean? Something that I can never imagine, and I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that I know what you're going through. Or, all right, kid, toughen up, time to go to biology. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it really, like, their face would kind of be like, huh? And I would be like, I mean, you're a human being first, right? And then a weird teenager second. Like, you know, and so I think that's really important. And I kind of like think of a story that my brother has shared with me when he was in high school, like when he was like 16. And there was like a teacher or sub or something, some school staff that was like, damn, like I will give anything to be in your guys' shoes and be 16. And I remember like my brother being in high school and him and his friends were like saying like, what the fuck is wrong with you, lady? And I was like, they were hurt. And it's like, you probably had a completely different life at 16 that these boys do right now. And like, it's just such a, I don't know, disconnected, maybe even ignorant thing to say to someone. And I think that kind of stuck in my brain, and maybe that's why I go like, no, I don't know everything. Because I don't. I mean, honestly, I'm sitting here with a fucking master's degree, and I'll tell you I don't know everything. And I don't know. I'm like, most of the time, like, oh, I don't know. Because I think walking through life like that makes you a learner. It makes you want to grow. But because if you sit there and like your arrogance or like, I know this because I've achieved this, you might get places, but people aren't going to like you.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like, I don't know. And then again, I don't know if you're going to get places. So I don't know. I don't know.
I think going back on the high school thing, I think what would be helpful for a lot of like kids in our communities would be like, you know how we had advisory where you would have a group of students like after or before lunch to, talk about whatever you want with the
For advisor?
teachers. Yeah.
Oh,
Advisory.
like your advisor.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
Like
I was like, who the fuck was I
the
talking to?
class advisory.
Oh, okay, okay. I was
I-
like, we were not having group discussions in advisor. I don't know what you're talking about.
but
But like a point person that you can go to.
no, I think advisory, the class itself was good because students shared with other students, which I think is the most appropriate thing when students
Building
start sharing.
community.
Yeah, like being able to express themselves better
Yeah.
with their peers because you don't talk to like your teacher because they're teachers and
Yeah.
you don't talk to them. You want to let them be free to talk to each other. And I feel like definitely there's students that are just going to talk about the day and random stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah.
video games.
Just
But
be kids,
every
yeah.
once in a while, it's going to spark something like they talk about, what they want to do after
Yeah.
high school. And even small moments like that throughout the year really push each other and also connecting. Let's say I wouldn't say bad students, but let's say students that aren't really motivated or like feel like they really want to continue their education.
Yeah.
I think having friends that might still do it, even if they're not friends. I call everyone my friend, right? Even
Yeah.
if they're not. But
Your classmates.
yeah, your classmates. Maybe in the future you might see them again to talk or like ask for some advice because I'm
Yeah.
like, I've had people now reach out to me like from years ago. I'm like, oh yeah, I don't mind sharing. Like I don't mind
Yeah, yeah,
talking.
yeah.
Like I enjoy that community because I'm like, we grew up.
Together.
Yes, even if weren't friends, like
Yeah.
talking, it's always good to know someone and to even treat people right. That's
Yeah.
why
Treat
a
people
lot
with
of
respect.
people in our communities, I don't get why they would treat someone bad or like bully them. I'm like, they might be going through stuff as you. Like you don't know their life. Like, or in the future, if they ever achieve something, you don't want to be in a position where you want to ask them for help or advice on something, and they won't give it to you because the person you were, even if you change, that first impression, let's say, it still holds
Like
a
you
lot
hurt
of weight.
someone and then now you're asking for advice. Well, yeah, wait, what was your question?
How advisory the class
How it
itself-
like impacted? Yeah, I think it was like a nice system that they had in the school, like kind of having like that. I guess like a little home base,
Yeah.
right? At the beginning or end of the day. I think also having like an advisor was nice. Like, you had that kind of like mentor figure, if you will, if you needed somebody. Yes, I think it's really good to have like that community. And I think in our case, it's a little more unique too, because we went to such a small school. So it's like everybody knew everybody. You
a
know
lot
what I
of people were related, that was so weird to me because I came in and I'm like, why are these
Not
people
for
related?
me. No, but yes, a lot of people like cousins, siblings. Yeah, that is true. I mean, it was a small school, it was a small community, which in like the grand scheme of things, I did like I think around the time I was like, damn, I wish I went to a big high school, had this and that. But like as I got older, as I am getting older, anyway. I realized that was like a good part, I think, because a lot of people don't even know who the fuck they went to school with, I guess it could be a double-edged blade if you had drama.
Yeah,
but
we had the same
I
people
had
for 4
nothing to
years.
say, yeah, I know.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is, and it was a unique experience, and I think it was nice, it was cool. But yeah, I think in terms of bullying, no, do not bully people. But like, you get what I'm saying? Like, it's not a good thing. But again, it goes back to that, like, you're having those traumas at home. What happens, it comes out at school. Either you are self-sabotaging and you're not doing good in school, or you're just being mean to teachers or whatever, even though you don't want it, like, or you're bullying someone, right? Oftentimes, it's something that's happening at home. So it goes back to having those mental health resources available to these people, to these kids, so that they can progress. Because honestly, this is generational trauma, right?
It is.
It starts off at home, and it's like, why is this happening? Oh, my mom did this, my dad did this, or someone in my family did this, right? And they're doing this because no one dealt with it. They didn't deal with it, and the people before them didn't deal with it. So it just trickles down and affects them and people around them. So, oh my God, I need water. But I don't know what I just said, but you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I guess.
It's just, again, it goes back to trauma, and it needs to be addressed.
It does.
And that goes back to like the bad kids, if you will.
Yeah,
They're not bad.
Yeah, they're not
I
bad.
love
It's
working with those
just
children. But like it's just like it's so funny now, like when they're like being mean to the teacher or doing like not in class, and like people or like people I work with, they tell me this, and this, and I was like, oh, it's all for attention, right? It's not bad. You're a kid. You're a human. People like attention, generally speaking, and sometimes kids get it through negative forms. Like I'm gonna push that kid. Now you're looking at me. Like you know what I mean? I'm gonna call you a bitch. Now you're looking at me, and it's just like, okay, well, it's the attention that you want. Now let's change it. Like, how can I give you positive attention, you know? And I think that's where it goes into like those kids not really feeling that they're seen, right? Or they get this attention and that negative attention is reinforced in school in the sense like you're not gonna become something. You're a fucking troublemaker. You're smoking in the bathroom again. What the fuck is wrong with you? And it's you get that constantly, like that what you're saying, the external motivation.
Yeah.
It's like if everybody's gonna think I'm a piece of shit, I'm gonna show you I'm a piece of shit. And that molding that you were talking about, that comes into play. And I think and it's hard, right? It's hard because then also people are working at school, they're people, and there's only so much that you can take. But it is what it is. Like what you say as an adult in that building to that kid, it's gonna have
it also sticks with them longer
than you can ever realize.
If you enjoy the show, don't forget to like and subscribe. We love to hear your thoughts and any topics you'd like us to cover in the future. Thank you for listening.
Do you guys have bloopers?
I can edit it.
You guys should add bloopers. So funny thing, you could put this wherever you want to put this. Back in my day in college, me and my friend wanted to start a podcast. We never did.
Oh, yeah?
And I'm looking at you, Santi, because I know you're going to watch this episode.
Podcast.
Look at that. I'm on a podcast. I made it. Dreams do come true.